See, there's a great Bleacher Report quote. We were in a meeting, and I don't remember what was said, and I laughed. I should not have laughed. And one of the kids that was the intern at the time goes, "Kelly loves toxic masculinity." And I go, "Yeah, we need it. We need more of it."
All right, so we've got Kelly in Vegas with us. Kelly, you remind me of Stephanie McMahon.
Whoa.
I think Kelly has Stephanie McMahon energy.
That's kind of funny.
It's
I like
badass.
that.
You've got great eyes. Stephanie has great eyes. She's got like very confident energy. You've got good energy. How did you get here? Like, explain to the people how you got here.
Oh my God. How did I get to Barstool? That is a great question. It has been a really fun ride. So long story long, I graduated college. We were in the middle of a recession. I didn't want to get a real job. I never really wanted to get a real job. I think at one point in time, I was like, oh, I'll be the vice president of marketing for some NFL team one day, or something like that. And I've always been into sales. I moved to Las Vegas.
Who were you in high school?
Who was I in high school?
You grew up in Kansas.
I
Like,
did.
Who
I
are
grew
you?
up in Kansas.
Manhattan, Kansas. I didn't even know such a place existed.
Right? The Little Apple. Let's see. Who was I in high school? I was the really smart girl in 9th and 10th grade. And then I met boys and booze. And, it's Kansas.
Priorities shifted.
Yeah. And
There's not a lot else to
stopped
do.
growing. I was telling Rob Savinelli this. I was a great athlete until about 8th grade. And I didn't get past 5'3".
Okay.
And then that career was over. I was kind of the loudmouth tomboy in high school.
Okay.
I was friends with a lot of people, but not friends with that many. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Everybody probably was like, "Oh, she's kind of a bitch, so I have to be nice to her." But
you weren't close. You didn't run like in a big pack.
No, I had like 3 or 4 friends.
Okay.
And we were just the loud, obnoxious girls getting kicked out of math class.
Okay.
Shout out to Mr. Hoyt. He's actually hilarious because we still interact on social media today, and I'm like, this poor man. He knew that I had the ability. I just didn't care about algebra.
You didn't have the application.
There was like a certain point where it like clicked to me. And this is what I enjoy. I enjoy finance. I enjoy statistics. I enjoy sports. And that I could apply to. But sitting in algebra 2 that I had to have so that I could go to college, I was just like, this sucks.
Yeah, not interested.
Yeah. So I kind of just had a very interesting attitude. And I've had to really, really, really shift that. Because I grew up basically an only child. I had this like, the world is mine attitude from a very young age. And I have to remind myself that I need to get along with other people in that world. It can't be fuck everybody else all the time. Mm-hmm. And so that's where Vegas really came in. College was just an extension of high school. I went to Kansas State, same town I grew up in, which was neither here nor there as a bad thing.
Okay.
It's probably great to still be close to home. I loved Kansas State. They were my first love in life. And I wanted to go elsewhere, but there was nowhere else that like would have been more fitting. So leave there.
Go to Vegas. At how old? How old were you when you went
23.
to Vegas? Okay, 23.
So
Where do you live in Vegas?
Well, I remember calling my dad and being like, hey, I'm moving to Vegas after I graduate. And he's like, okay. And I was like waiting for him to be like, absolutely not. And he goes, what are you going to do? I go, well, I'm going to work at a nightclub. And he's like, why? And I go, I don't know. These girls sell these $500 bottles of vodka and it just seems like a good idea. And he's like, whatever you're doing, kid, like go for it. So I lived right off like a major interstate in this like little apartment for like 3 weeks. And I was like, I hate this. My girlfriend Lindsay and I ended up getting a house. We lived together. Then I bought my first house. And then
So the nightclub business is lucrative. If you're an attractive woman who's working it.
And I know we'll get to this later, but I think that was like a lot of where me on social media, I had like an attitude towards like some of these guys because I was making a ton of money in the nightclubs. And then, so I had the funds to bet sports. I had the funds to lose, win, go on those roller coaster highs and lows that gamblers go through. And that was where I was just like, screw you guys. Like, you guys think I'm like the old lady with the tray of cocktails at like the 1977 casino from downtown?
Yep.
No, like this is, it was great. It was honestly some of the best times of my life.
How did you manage the money? So you got paid in cash.
I was an absolute utter dumb shit.
Okay.
I look back and I'm like, God.
Did you like keep it under your mattress or just like cash wads of money just strewn all over your apartment? Like,
so going back, let's revert back. I if you asked me if you asked me 10 years ago, Kelly, what was your childhood like? Oh my God, we were dirt poor Kansas hillbillies. And then now I look back and I'm like, you had it really good. Like, what was wrong with you? But my parents didn't have the means to put me through college. I went to college in the time where you just went into the student loan office and you just signed.
Yeah.
And signed. And they just gave you money. Yeah. And I had a Jeep. And then I bought a car. And I lived in a nice apartment. And I had new clothes. And I'd pay for everybody's drinks at the bar. And
you're like, take that, Mr. Hoyt. I know how to make money.
Yeah. And then I got the bill for it when I moved to Vegas. And I was like, oh my God. So a lot of my money went to paying off my student loans. A lot of it went to vacations. A lot of it went to
gambling.
Yeah. I mean, I've lost a lot of money gambling, and that was the hardest lesson I had to learn.
Yep.
And once you realize what your threshold is, and we call it in the gambling space bankroll management, you're going to be fine. You can go through the long haul, because I think a lot of people have this get rich quick scheme in their brain, and that's not it. You really need to be in it for the long haul if you truly want to make money in this business. Do you
think long haul you've made money?
I'm going to get there one of these days.
Okay.
So I didn't ever start doing the spreadsheet thing. I didn't ever start doing anything. I mean, God, I would get off work and go put $500 on black.
Yep.
Had 4 or 5 glasses of champagne at work, walk off work. I'm like, okay, let's go put this on black. Let's see what happens. Like, just like obnoxious shit.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I don't play table games. I definitely don't play roulette. I like a little baccarat here and there, but learning what your levels are and what you can bet on a game, and actually having people far smarter than myself teach me how to be able to do this long term is what the difference from me now and me 12 years ago was.
Yep.
So that is a really scary question, because I think everybody has to go through those highs and lows to learn. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, but I can't until you go through it.
And learn how to live it. You have to learn it the hard way.
I mean, I remember one time I was like, "Hey, Mom, I need to borrow some money," and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, we went to I think I had, I don't know, maybe 10 grand on me or something, and we went to our Christmas party at a casino. We just get hammered, and next thing you know, I wake up the next morning, I'm like, shit. That was a bad idea." And those are terrible things. That's it's real life. And I have this intern kid that's working for me, and I keep telling him, I'm like, dude, this is not real life. You cannot do this. But he has to live it himself.
He has to learn it himself
and understand. And so when I found sports gambling, because I've always been a gambler, and I've learned that I can find small edges, and that's where you can kind of start to separate yourselves from the recreational bettor.
Okay.
And every day is still a learning process, right? But let me promise you this. I'd never bet more than a certain amount on a game.
So you have bankroll management.
Oh my God, yes. Point. Yeah, and I have spreadsheets, and I've got databases, and I've got other people that I can talk to about things. I could open up, well, I can't because we're in New York, but soon I'll be able to open up, show you my betting account here in New York. And you can look at it and you're like, oh, she does practice what she preaches. And that's because I've had to go through some pretty crazy shit. I didn't lose my house. No, my car didn't get repoed. But that was a really dumb mistake. And once you can grow and learn from your mistakes, that's kind of where I think you hit a pinnacle, right? And I think that was probably, we'll call it 2017, 2018.
Okay. So you're all right. So you've left recreational gambling behind. You've built a social media persona. You're crushing it in the nightlife gig in Vegas. How do you get to ESPN?
Oh, I went and interviewed, and only because it came up on my memories on Facebook, I interviewed at ESPN the day that PAPSPA got repealed.
Okay.
And so
which was May 18th or some
date. 2017.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And so I'm just there, and it's just it's everywhere, right?
In Bristol.
Yeah, in Bristol. And so I didn't really go through the full interview process because everybody's going nuts, right? They've got things going on. I talked to an
Coincidentally, you're there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there, and they said, hey, maybe we'll have a role for you later. I'll be honest with you, ESPN was never my dream. I mean, I was joking with one of your producers here off air, my dream is to not work. I want to go live in Costa Rica and sit on the beach and bet games. But in theory,
until that point,
yeah. And and this has been a really fun run. I work for well, now I own part of a company called Wager Talk. And I started working for those guys. And it's been an awesome run to build something from such a like ground floor. They'd already had it started, but to be able to really catapult that business with other people has been great. I ended up working for Bleacher Report for the last couple of years.
Heard of them.
Yeah. And they don't like you guys very much.
No.
That's
okay.
I have a lot of friends still over there, but it's a very different environment than this one. I've only spent 30 minutes in this office, and this is kind of where I probably should have always been. And I was talking to my girlfriend last night. She goes, how come you never interviewed at Barstool? You went on all these interviews with all these different companies. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like now this makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it's so obvious. I feel like Barstool things are that way. Like, oh, duh, she belongs here. She's such a great fit. But it takes an accident to get there.
Right. To backtrack to ESPN and kind of some of my thought processes were, okay, Bleacher Report wants you to come back. Okay, this is what's going on at Fox. All right, we want you to talk to these people as well. And I had full-on intentions of going back to CBS. It was such a casual gig. You get to work from home. I loved my boss there. It was super competitive with the guys, but also very just like fun-loving, right?
Yep.
We could dig at each other.
Collegiate.
We could have a great time, but we were all on the same team. And again, I was like, you know what? I've kind of gotten lazy in this work from home environment. I'm like, no, I don't want to wear pants. I just have to do my hair and makeup and wear like a top that, is on camera. And it became this weird thing because then here's ESPN in the 11th hour saying, we want you. And my agents went back and forth with them. But from that very moment, I had a pit in my stomach. And I remember I was at the gym with my girlfriend, Ruby, and she was like, dude, this is so awesome. This is what you've always wanted. And I go, this is nothing I ever wanted. What are you talking about? Like, I didn't go to broadcasting school. I never meant to be on air. I got a Twitter account in 2009 and started talking shit to random people on the internet.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but like, look where you're at. Like, you're breaking all these barriers and you're doing all this stuff. And I'm like,
you're a woman in gambling and you've worked at highly pedigreed places.
And it's still mind-boggling to me. So I, didn't even interview with them. That was the craziest part. My agents went back and forth with them, and they said, okay, you're going to ESPN. And I signed a contract, and that's how I got there. I mean, it was just so nonchalant.
Yeah.
There was no formal process.
And did you know what you would be doing there?
Yeah, so I knew that I would be part of Daily Wager, which is with my good buddy Doug. Doug is the host of that show. And I knew Joe from other like various like events and stuff that he and I had done. And then Tyler I'd never met before, but I had heard, great things from other people in the industry.
How would you categorize CBS, Bleacher Report, ESPN, and now your 30 minutes at Barstool Sports? Like what's the one sentence on each from your perspective?
Oh, this is tough. Okay. ESPN knows where they want to be, but they're so far away from it. And I thought that I could bring something to the table for them that they were really lacking. Bleacher Report, I love those guys, but it was fuck around hour all the time. And I needed to not be hated by the 18-year-olds pretending to be 21 gambling on there. And they somehow made me a villain, and that's neither here nor there because I love those guys, but it kind of, there was a shift there where right when I first started, everybody got fired and there was a lot of lack of direction. Mm-hmm. And, when you have because I didn't work at Bleacher Report, I worked at BR Betting. So I worked at their betting entity. And while I wanted to give them this edge, they want to post 5-team parlays, and then they want me to argue with somebody about their 5-team parlay. And when all I can say is, look, your payout's incorrect. This is a terrible idea. This is this. They don't care because that's what their audience wants. Yeah. And so I kind of had to realize that they wanted to brand me as their gambling expert, but instead they wanted me to be like this villain.
Yeah.
And so that was the problem. And I know that was not one sentence.
That's okay.
CBS was easy. Gosh. It was so relaxed, and like I said, my boss over there was amazing, and Kenny White's one of the guys over there. Todd Furman's one of the guys over there, and those guys I would say were a very integral part of my early career. Mm-hmm. They were extremely great mentors for me, and they taught me a ton. So I would say CBS is safe.
Yes. Okay, great. And then what's your observation here?
Barstool is a lot of fun. It was kind of crazy. I was standing in the lobby and I'm like, oh, that person. And it's like, you just walk around the office and you're like, oh, I know that person, but you don't, but you feel like you do just from watching it. And Barstool is an absolute and utter marketing machine. And everything you guys do touches, it turns to gold.
Alive. Yeah, it's alive. Okay, so this is great. So then you get blown out of ESPN.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about that?
We have to talk about it.
All right,
I mean,
so
I haven't got to
happened?
talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
It's crazy. I got to put out a bullshit statement on the internet because that's what you have to do. And that's just the truth. I mean, I had a family member tell me that they didn't like my apology. And I go, you realize that wasn't an apology, right? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, it was a statement. Am I sorry for being a complete and utter asshole on the internet?
So dial it back.
Sorry.
What happened originally?
Originally, like in 2012?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Erika, here I am working in a nightclub. You meet bookies and drug dealers and all sorts of people with cash all the time. And what do? Those are your regulars. That's who's coming in there moving money around, right? And
they're paying off your student loans. I'm like, that's the truth of it.
I mean, kind of. And that sounds terrible to say. And then you got rich guys coming in from New York.
I don't think it sounds terrible. I think that's business.
And you get there's just so much money and it's just around. And here I am single and young and I'm out having fun. And I've got my buddy Jeff who, does some things in Ohio, and he's got his buddies that are doing those same things in other areas. And they're like, Cal, come to the sports book with us. Come do this. So I'd get off work at 4 a.m. and kickoff's at 9 a.m. And I'm like, all right, fine. And next thing you know, you have 3 or 4 beers and it's like, shit, I got to go home and take a shower because I got to go to work, but I want to watch the end of this game. And it becomes this like crazy lifestyle, and you're hanging out with guys that are complete and utter assholes. They don't have jobs. They say whatever they want. And here's me already very unfiltered. And, I'm getting harassed on the internet by guys saying God knows what. So I'm using...
So you start to say whatever you want.
Yes. Yeah. And, I think the most upsetting tweet that I got, because 99% of people were amazing. I honestly should have got shit on the internet way worse than I did. But the worst one was like, imagine having a megaphone of this size and saying words like that. I go, bro, I bet I had 400 followers in 2012. What are you talking about? And I'm just arguing with other random people on the internet.
So you're arguing with people. You put a bunch of words, slurs, whatever in that you're like, oh, shit, probably shouldn't have done that.
I'll be honest with you. When Dave DM'd me, when we first started this conversation, I was just like, God, I'm so repulsed by myself. I mean, we're talking, this is like over 9.5 years ago. Like, I think we're allowed to grow and we're allowed to 100%. Evolve, and we 100%. Have to be better than we were the day before.
100%.
And I'm telling you, what I did after I got fired is I was like, all right, when did I finally start to do this on 100% level? And I was like mid 2015. So I literally bought a $99 program and I deleted every tweet before January 1st of 2015 because God knows what else I said.
Totally.
And I don't need somebody out there because they for some reason hate me searching for certain words that I may or may not have said or was in a conversation with. I am just like, God, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like reading some of this, like, who is this person? And also, who tweets like a 12-year-old texter? I did. And it's
what I think is so interesting? So someone said this to me once about Barstool, which is that she was like, you're surrounded by people who don't have consequence, which I thought was interesting that she was like, I think your point is really interesting that the people you are around and the attitude that you're around and the permissions that people have around you, it's like osmosis. They infuse into you and you feel the same. You feel the same things and start to do the same things. And I thought it was a really interesting thing to say to me because I was like, God, that's kind of interesting, which is, the thing with Barstool, it's not that we don't have consequence, it's that we own the consequence and we move the consequence forward. And I think that's what life is about. And to your point, I completely agree with you. Like all the stupid shit everyone on the face of this earth did 10 years ago is Like, of course you're better than you were the day before. Of course people screw up. Like, I love your energy, and I love that you're like, fuck it. Yeah, I was an asshole on Twitter at X amount of time. I think you're so smart that you deleted everything. We grappled with that here where 2017, 2018, we were really adamant that we were not going to delete our history. Like really, really, really adamant, because everyone has a history.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, it's okay to have fucked up. It's okay to have said the wrong thing. Like, why is it okay? Because you learn from it, you grow from it, you progress from it. Times change, you change, people change. But the decision to like stick by the evolution was really important. Then, to your point, it gets to be too much because it's an entire ecosystem in business to prey on your past. And that's really people don't really understand that in the internet. And, you know, it's interesting for us, it also intersected with ESPN, whereby ESPN was like, ooh, you know, like too red hot, too controversial. I mean, John Skipper was having an absolute meltdown because Chaps had written a blog about pumpkins that looked like they had like assholes and like looked like genitalia. Like that was.
But full disclosure, I was there that day, and I remember watching. I think it was like day one of the Barstool show, and I remember thinking, did these guys not know what they were getting themselves into?
Completely.
And that's what they didn't know with me.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Those tweets have been out there for years. The same trolls try to get me fired from Bleacher Report. I got suspended. Wager Talk suspended me. Everybody said, okay, we're good. We're going to start fresh and clean with football season. We're going to put this behind us. I don't know if they really did know about the tweets or not, but they definitely didn't do their due diligence, just like they did with Barstool.
That's right. And also, it's like they also they want this whitewashed, or they want a washed version of reality, which is that no one has a history and no one's imperfect and no one has done something that would be unsavory.
I probably shouldn't say this, but as I mentioned, one of the only people that I met with that day, because everything was so kind of chaotic, was a lady from HR. And she literally asked me, she's like, so what'd you do at the nightclub? She's like, are there any nude photos of you? Are there any videos out there? I go, are you asking if I have a sex tape? And she goes, do you have a sex tape? And I go, would you ask some guy if he has a sex tape? I go, no. And it was like this weird thing, but like, I'm like,
but what if you did?
Fucked up world am I in right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
do you think they ask male talent if they have a sex tape?
No, of course not. Of course, why would they? They don't ask male talent anything. Look at some of the men that have worked there and some of the shit that they've pulled. Mm-hmm. It's honestly, the more I reflect on that day, I'm like, oh my God, did that really happen? And look, full circle, it was probably the worst at the moment and best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, that's right. So now we're in this new era. You're here. What are you going to do here?
That is a great question. So Rob and I have talked a lot about, like, here's your ideas. And you guys just brought Megan making money on board. And I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's awesome. I mean, look what she's built. It took me 14, 15 years to build what she built in 2. It's just phenomenal. She puts out great content. She's witty. She's hilarious. So I'm hoping that Megan and I get to do some stuff together. I just met Marty the Mush, big fan of his as well, out here. He said, hey, are we going to do some stuff together? It was my favorite question. He asked if I was a winning sports bettor. And I tried to explain from a very scientific perspective how hard that is to be. And he goes, that was a really long answer. I go, no, otherwise I wouldn't be here. And he goes, that's the answer I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, get with me.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing. So I'm hoping to do some content with those guys and really bring my A game to the table here. The one thing that I don't know what I'm going to do, and this is where it's hard for me, my buddy Chris, I was in Swampscott, home of Dave Portnoy for 4th of July, and my buddy Chris goes, Cal, they don't fucking care if you win. And I go, I care if I win. And he goes, you got to get that attitude out there. He goes,
so funny.
They want your content. He goes, you're going to win. You're going to lose.
They don't win very much. I mean, I'm not sure if you've noticed that.
Yes, I do. But he goes, they're going to ride the highs and lows with you. He goes, you're going to be loved. You're going to be hated. And you just have to embrace it and put out kick-ass content. And I'm like, okay, that I can do. And so that is my goal, is to really bring, I don't think legitimacy is the right word, so I don't want to use it, but bring something to Barstool
that we don't have,
right? And I want to have this kind of dichotomy where I'm not the nerdy lady educating these kids on how to gamble, but also, hey, learn from my mistakes. Let me tell you where you're screwing up here and why you're not going to make money doing this.
Yep.
Now, look, if you want to bet your $5 parlays, go for it. But if you're telling me you're betting $500 a game and you can't figure out why you can't win, I can look at your account and go, well, your problem is you had too many high noons at 11 p.m. and bet some overnight soccer game in Turkey, bro. What are you doing?
Yep.
And you have to have that discipline. And again, I don't want to be the stickler, but I think that we could just do that just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Tell me about do you care that you're a woman in sports betting? Why aren't there more women? Give me your point of view there.
God, I've just always been one of the guys, and I've just always wanted to belong and be accepted. And I think that's been the greatest part. All the trolls, all the bullshit on the internet aside, 99% of the people that I've met in the actual gambling space who make money and who are legitimate have been amazing. And so the being a female thing, I think, has been really helpful because it's like they have to be nice to me.
I like that about you. I actually like that. It was funny. When I was growing up in business, everyone was like, oh, it's so hard to be a woman. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, wear a fucking short skirt. Like, put yourself out there. And there are advantages to being a woman. And I like that you own your advantages. Like, yes, there's disadvantages. Yes, there's hardship. Yes, there's discrimination. Yes, there's adversity. But I like that you are you and you're out there. To me, you're not really you're kind of genderless in a way.
Listen, I'm not out there fucking breaking barriers. I had some guy ask me on a radio spot 2 years ago. He's like, man, think about all these women that look up to you. And I was like, why? I'm just out there having a good time with the boys. This is not this is not Rosie the Riveter in World War II where I'm working on an airplane and I'm really making some difference in the world. I'm talking about sports gambling. I'm loving what I'm doing. And I'm telling you, you're right. It's if you're just nice to those guys, they're all a bunch of fucking nerds. Every single one of them. They all are really smart at math. They all have their spreadsheets. And if you're nice to them, they're going to tell you exactly how to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. I went to Don Best and I'm hanging out with guys like Todd and Kenny and Brian and all of these guys. And they're like, hey, so why'd you bet this game? Let me show you something from an actual math-based perspective. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy's really smart. Mm-hmm. Because we can all look at things from our own view. We can have our situational perspectives, but at the end of the day, sports gambling is all math based. And that's why Mr. Hoyt always jokes that he uses me as an example every day. He's like, this kid hated math. No, I hated algebra. I love money and I love sports. And if you put those two things together, you have a winning combination.
Kelly in Vegas. All right, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on all the social media outlets at Kelly in Vegas. No, I don't TikTok. I'm too old for that, even though I do have one. Let's see. And I can't wait. We got to figure out couple names for some pods and everything we're going to do over here at Barstool.
And what would you say to a girl that looks up to you?
I would say if you put in the work and you actually take the time to learn the math side, the situational side of gambling, the sky's the limit. I mean, I'm telling you, like I said, Megan did what it took me 12 years to do in 2 years. I've seen other women start to break into the industry. If you work your ass off, this is easy. This is a very easy road and path because every major company wants to hire a woman.
Love it. All right.